Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Woolley. I am the chair of the Santa Barbara American Institute of Architects Design Awards Committee this year. And for the first time in our program's history, we are doing a Submit Like a Pro webinar to give those of you who are interested in submitting for projects some tips and pointers on how to do that in an effective way. Our Design Award program sponsor is American Riviera Bank. We have a great partnership with American Riviera and appreciate their sponsorship. And this program is being done in the month of May, and the monthly sponsor for AIA Santa Barbara is Ashley Vance Engineering Incorporated, and we'd like to thank both of those sponsors for their commitment to AIA Santa Barbara. And with that, we shall get underway. The purpose of Submit Like a Pro is to give, like I say, to give those who are looking to submit some tips and tricks and insight on how to get that done. Today's webinar will include welcomes and thank yous, which I just did. We'll have an overview of the awards program itself, just the highlights. There is a document available that will give you the details. Our panel is made up of previous submitters, Dan Weber, Keith Rivera, and Terry Casson. The common application by AIA National is suggested to be used, but we're not making it a requirement this year, but it will be a requirement next year. The person most knowledgeable about this common application is Paul Poirier, and we have him here today to talk about that. And then finally, we want to give you our jurors' point of view. And last year, John Margolis acted as a juror, and so he'll give you his thoughts about what the jury is looking for. So the document, the 2021 AIA Santa Barbara Design Awards Submission Guidelines is a 7-page document that will be sent to you, and you can obtain it online or through our office. We'll give you the details about how to submit, the requirements for submission, the process, and the format. And we'll just touch on a couple of those now. But before I move on, just want to acknowledge the great work of our design committee, which is made up of 3 of our panelists, Jolie Wall, our current president, Taye, and Jose Luis Espazarza. So I'd like to thank those guys for their work and helping us to craft this year's program. Eligibility. Licensed architects and firms in good standing with AIA are eligible to submit projects, either of projects that are located in Santa Barbara County or worldwide. Basically, the requirement is that you've got to be a Santa Barbara chapter architect or firm to do so. Entry fees are on a scale. So if you register early, it's $175 and $150 for each additional entry after that. If you've previously submitted a project that did not receive an award, that fee is $100. After July 16th, it goes up. And if you're a non-member, it's slightly higher. A key point is once these fees are paid, they're not refundable. The categories include commercial buildings, single-family residential, mixed-use and multifamily residential, conservation, historic preservation, restoration, rehabilitation, and reconstruction, Santa Barbara style, small projects, which include single-family residential additions, remodels, and ADUs. Commercial interiors and residential interiors, and then finally, proposed or unbuilt projects. We recognize that there's a lot of work out there that goes through the design process that never sees a the dirt to be built. And so we encourage you to submit those projects if you have them. The submission and elements the jury are looking for are projects that are inspirational, projects that have a creative solution to a problem, environmentally sensitive projects, and projects that have a social transformation or a social response of some kind. And now I'll turn it over to our panelists. We'll begin with Dan. He'll go through his projects, some of his tips. He'll hand it off to the next panelist and the next panelist and on forward. Dan?
All right, great. Thank you, Robert. I'm Dan Weber. I'm the founder of Anacapa Architecture in Santa Barbara. So we just have one project here. This is a project that we won an award for in the residential interiors category a couple years ago. And we've also won some awards in other awards programs for this project as well. This is a small house. It's on a relative scale, a modest budget. I think it was probably around $1 million. It's about a 22 or 2,400 square foot house. Great client. It's located in town in Santa Barbara in the Mesa area. And the project was completed maybe in 2017. So I'll give you a couple insights. I've got maybe about 4 insights or tips that we think about when we're thinking about upcoming awards. The awards ultimately come down to photos and diagrams that communicate the goals and features of the project, but it's a really long road to design and build a project that results in that final product. And it starts back when you're doing the concept design. We really think hard about what features of the project are going to be impactful enough to result in an award-winning project, and especially in the views that jurors will be evaluating. These photos that jurors will be evaluating when they're evaluating the awards. So we study those views and we study those experiences in the concept design phase really thoroughly. So the best way to do that obviously is ramp up your digital modeling and start creating these experiences so that you can start evaluating the impact of these views really, really early in the project. Clients usually appreciate that anyway. The clients want impactful views. So if you're thinking about what views that are going to be powerful enough to tell the story of your project, it's probably going to also mean that your client's happy with the experiences that you're providing for them. Innovation also is always, unless you're in one of the categories that's distinctly a traditional architectural style, architectural innovation is a really important aspect of awards programs. And, for that matter, even in traditional projects, solving problems in an innovative way. But formal innovation and spatial innovation is a difficult and important goal. And I've found, my tip would be push this as hard as you can, because throughout the life of the project, it's going to start to get watered down and it's going to get chipped away at, and your crazier ideas are going to get tamed, and you need to fight for those big ideas. It's easier said than done inside of budgets and clients goals and program and site constraints and design review and all those things, but you have to try to be innovative. My second point I would say is tenacity. So once you have a project that has some features or some views or some aspects of it that you think are strong enough that it could win an award, you got to fight for those features for a long time. You got to fight for them through all of the construction document phases, all of the consultant coordination phases, and you got to hang on to those, and you have to be super, super tenacious about solving problems and figuring out solutions to make your ideas feasible. And that's especially true once you're in the construction phase. Once you lose a lot of control of the project, and things start happening that you're not directly in control of. So if you can get your contractors enrolled in the goals that you have to have an award-winning project and show them that vision, either images or renderings, and say, this is what we're going to try to create, and get them inspired to have a really amazing finished product that helps you reach that goal. Third point, thoroughness. So when you get a project and you're ready to photograph it and you're thinking about whether or not it can win an award, you have to think way beyond the architecture, the building shell. And usually that means it's almost a necessity to have really good landscape and really good interior design, and have your project fully reach that finish line, so that when you create these images that show off the design ideas and the values you're communicating, that you don't have bare spots or missing spots. And that's another really hard thing to achieve with budgets and client goals and different tastes. But if you can get your clients motivated by awards, which we always try to do in the beginning of the project, we try to tell our clients that we want to win awards, and clients oftentimes can be motivated by a sense of pride in the project. If they know their project is going to be photographed and shown off, they'll be your ally in seeing it through to completion and making sure that the project is really thorough from lot line to lot line. And then my last point, of course, is photography. You got to have amazing photography. It's really expensive. You can oftentimes save some money on photos by teaming up with a contractor that wants to market the project as well, or interior designers or other vendors, sometimes even structural engineers. The downside of that is you lose control over your photos, and you have to start arm wrestling with all the other entities that are trying to steer your photo shoot in a way that you don't want it to go. But getting a good photographer, finding the budget, paying the money, getting it done right, and then putting a lot of energy into photos, staging, cleaning it up, being there on site to be your creative director of your photo shoot is totally essential and totally worthwhile, because these photos are this moment in time of your project when it's at its best, and that's the legacy of your project, and that's the piece that you get to hang on to once you can't get inside and it gets old and worn out and you can't access it anymore. So we put a ton of energy into creating these images. Looking forward to some questions. Thanks a lot.
All right.
You're muted.
Thanks, Dan. Keith Rivera here. The example I'm going to show you was a 2019 honor award for multifamily housing. And I kind of like to think of this as an example that shows how small firms, even sole practitioners like myself, can compete in our awards program. We all make presentations all the time, the clients, ABR, Planning Commission, to explain not only the configuration and layout of a design, but why the design deserves to be supported. And Design Awards entry is no different, with the big exception is that you're not there in person to make the pitch. So it has to be extremely clear and concise in my mind. This project was all about making the most on a really constrained site, and the response to the site to provide as much housing opportunity as possible. This is student housing up near City College. So this is really what the presentation stressed. And I like to think of it as it's an essay with words and images. You have a thesis, why this is a good project, and all the words and images are there to support that thesis and why it deserves to be recognized in the awards program. As far as the presentation itself, I think there's some obvious things like, your first page image really has to be, the killer view of the project to pick the the jury's interest, so they dig in deeper. Next, I think the written statement is really kind of a key piece in that this is really explaining why this project deserves an award, what's unique about it, or what problems it's solving, what its purpose is. And it has to be boiled down to the most essential ideas and features of the project. And then, all your graphic material after that is supporting that thesis, supporting those points in the written form. So, your drawings, I think, have to be really simple and clear, so that the jury can quickly understand the configuration and understand it in the context of your written explanation. All your captions and explanations on the drawing, again, I think have to be in support of that thesis at the beginning of why this is a good project, or what this project's about. So just kind of reiterating those points. I mean, this project was kind of all about a constrained sloping site and how that shaped the building form so that it's stepping with the hillside and doing certain things in an urban sense with the street. And if we could go to the photo images, Robert, I think it's the last sheet. Yeah, there we go. So again, each image was selected to reinforce one of the points in the written statement about things like addressing the street and providing animation and social interaction at the street, and the form's response to the topography and orientation and views to the sun and that. So each caption explained those points. So that's kind of my takeaway, is just, think of it as this essay that you're trying to get a point across about this design, and each element, each image, each word has to be in support of that overall thesis. So that's my take on the award submission. And I think next up is Terry from KBZ.
Terry, you need to unmute.
All right, can you hear me now? So I'm Thierry Cassan from KBZ Architects, and I want to show you one of the projects we submitted in 2018. And this was for Santa Barbara City College. It was a brand new classroom building we had the pleasure to do starting in 2014 and completed in 2018. I think I want to really focus on, and I think Dan Weber talked about it, it's the quality of the photography. I think I really, we always hiring a professional photographer, but it's beyond photography. I think it's a photographer who can understand your design concepts, a photographer who know architecture, can really follow your narrative. And I think he's going to develop his photos following your narrative. And in this case, you can really tell the story using his work. And his work is really pretty close to the way you design the building. We always started by meeting the photographer and review our design concepts. And you can see in this building, in this project, the first photo was this very sharp, telling the full story of this building. Or we didn't try to show the full scope, or just the first thing you see when you approach the building. And this is actually when I started designing this building, this was my first concept, or the first thing I saw when I walked the site. I think it's very important to work with you, work with your photographer, and hoping he can really deliver is work following your concepts. And again, you can see on the other photo, each photo following the narrative, and we reinforce on the presentation with very strong, verbiage, like you can see on the upper right corner, functional respect, and all those words coming from our narrative we had on the beginning of the seminar. And again, very, each side, each piece of the building is following our concepts and reinforced by those very strong words. And also another part of this project was a LEED platinum building, but it's very nice, very interesting to recap all your sustainable design concepts in one vignette, very simple, but you can highlight all the sustainable design feature you were able to do. And in this case, it was a lot to reach platinum, LEED platinum. If you go to the next one, again, this is a different project. It's another school we submit in 2019. And again, we, the photo tells the story. The photographer follow our design. You can see we show a photo and one of the rendering, one of the schematic design rendering, and you can see all the details in the photo are almost matching. Look like they were all done together at the same time. And now again, quality of the photo tells the story. Keep it simple, and that's it. All right, I think I'm done here.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier, and I've been the judge for AIA California's Design Awards, evaluating the Common App for Design Excellence. And the Common App for Design Excellence is currently in its second beta test, and it's being used for awards by AIA National, AIA Committee on the Environment, and AIA California. And many local chapters are starting to roll it out as we are, hopefully to get you familiar with it. The general concept of the app is it's a suite of consistent project data entry fields that cover both general project information and simple performance metrics. The performance metrics are aggregated and automatically generate this spider graph, so that strange looking hexagon or octagon up in the upper right corner gets populated with a performance polygon that shows you how you're doing in each one of the 10 areas. So it gives you a quick way to see how a project performs on this Common App in relationship to these sustainability measures. The goal of this Common App is to make it so that all of the awards programs across the Institute are, yes, that's what it would look like, aligned, and so that you only need to fill out one form to apply for a local, state, or national design competition, or the AIA code at the national level. So these topics, these 10 topics, are embraced by what they're calling the big move in AIA, which is to promote sustainability and response to climate change as a top priority for the Institute, and to create a common metric for projects to be measured against. This is to simplify the process of multiple award submissions so that firms of all sizes and resources can fairly compete at all of those levels. And we want the AIA will collect and track and make available to the membership the data that's submitted for Design Awards submittals. So that's kind of important. The AIA Committee on the Environment has been doing that for the award-winning projects, and you're able to see how they address each one of these areas. Regarding our Santa Barbara application, there are 4 areas that we're requesting information on: inspiration, creative problem solving, environmental sensitivity, and social transformation and response. And the Common App, although not required and optional, is providing a framework to address some of those primary areas of judging of the projects this year. So under inspiration, you can utilize design for integration, design for well-being, and design for discovery. Creative problem solving, you could reference back to design for economy. For regarding environmental sensitivity, You can look at design for ecosystems, design for water, design for energy, and design for resources. And under social transformation, you can look under design for equitable communities and design for change. And the way the Common App works is it's an Excel spreadsheet with some of the cells locked. And you go and you just put your input in. And on the right, under units definition, maybe you don't know your climate zone, you click on that link and it shoots you to a map where you can just pick your climate zone, or you can see the walkability index for the project. So it also informs you about how these things relate back to the overall performance of your project, and putting them on a common benchmark makes it so that from project to project, you can look at those things and evaluate how your project's performing. It's a great tool. They have a thing called the super spreadsheet that's also available that expands out this Common App into really minute detail if you want to get into it when you're designing your project. And I guess I'll leave it at that. We'll probably, once we adopt this next year, have a follow-up learning webinar on how to fill out the Common App and really digging into it with some folks that have done it. So thank you. I'll turn it over to John Margolis for the perspective of the jury.
Yes, thank you. So I had the privilege of serving on the jury for 2019. So I recognized a number of the photographs today. So that was quite a pleasure to see them again. The takeaway for me is, having been on a number of different kinds of juries, is that people sometimes, or who submit, sometimes lose sight of how many entries there often are that the jury has to review in a very short window of time. And so it's really important that your project is clear, it's well presented, and that, as you heard a number of times in talking about the quality of the photographs, I think that that really is important. But there's a tendency for entrants to sometimes want to show every single aspect of their project, or drawings aren't coordinated and oriented the same way as the site plan, and anything that creates a obstacle, I think, for understanding very, very quickly what your message is a deterrent, and sometimes is enough reason to kind of put it to the side, just because there's such limited time to review all these quality entries. So my takeaway is that those strongest submittals or submissions often have very strong photos. Sometimes there are only a few of them, and the plans and supporting documents are clear and very thoughtfully oriented, so they support the imagery and the story that the submission and the entrant is trying to tell. Those are my kind of big picture comments.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
We'll open the floor to questions, but I just take an opportunity to add my 2 cents into this conversation. You know, the written description thesis, as Keith mentioned, is important to give the jury a grounding of your project. But don't miss the opportunity to use your captions to highlight that story. Don't make it a paragraph. You know, a line or 2 on your caption can add to that thesis, since you are limited in the amount of text. There are a couple of questions in the chat. I'll start out with those, and then any of the panelists are welcome to jump in and answer the question. Elena has a couple of them, so let me start with that. How do you think about drawings and text for awards? What's the process for this? And the corollary to your digital model to photograph views and comments.
I might just jump in, Robert. That was a question sort of directed at Dan. You know, he was the one that had sort of an interesting comment about thinking about photo views from the beginning of the project, and, you know, sort of using your digital model as a tool for that. I was curious if he had a sort of corollary in terms of thinking about presentation drawings and text or diagrams for an award submittal.
Excellent. Dan?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Well, we spend far more time purposely with experiential views, because that's how ultimately we experience the project, and that's ultimately what its impact is. So I don't get hung up on trying to create interesting diagrams, and the reality of the projects are, once it comes time to submit these things for awards, we're done with the work. You know, we need to package up the drawings that we've completed, maybe clean them up a little bit and put them on the submittal, because it just takes a lot of resources to put these submittals together. But I think if you are focusing on innovating in design, you're probably going to end up with some interesting diagrams. And I think cleaning those diagrams up so they're very minimal and conveying the ideas that you're trying to communicate with your 3D model is probably the biggest takeaway. More and more we've started to do diagrams as part of our conceptual design phase, to start exploring ideas before we even have a resolved floor plan. So we'll do more simple adjacency diagrams and 3D model diagrams to explore ideas. So I think in our future award submittals, we'll be including those a lot more.
Thanks, Dan. Elena has another question in the chat. Do any of you have a favorite photographer? Any of the panelists can respond to that.
Yeah,
I do, but go
Terry?
ahead.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Terry.
I think, like I was saying, it's a relationship you're building, you know, project after project with your photographer. No? It's part of the design team almost. Now, if you have the luxury to build that's great. I think we can recommend a few, but maybe the best we keep for ourselves.
Dan?
yeah. I work almost all of our projects we've photographed with Aaron Feinblatt. And I've been working with Aaron for probably 10 years. So we truly have developed a very close working relationship, and over a long period of time started to improve the presentation and types of views that we're seeking. And it's actually really helped me. We spend so much time studying it at the end of projects. It's helped me be a better designer. So I would recommend Aaron Feinblatt up and down. He's an amazing photographer and consummate professional, and I'm not trying to keep him a secret. I definitely would encourage everyone to call him and have him shoot your projects.
Yeah, no, I was kidding about keeping mine secret, but Jason Rick is a very local, very good photographer, and I also recommend him highly.
At Appleton Partners, we have a stable of people we refer to, and a lot of it depends on the kind of project and how it's represented. I mean, there are some that have a greater sympathy for traditional work or contemporary work, and I think it's important to pick one that has a really feeling for those kinds of differences in projects. Some have people in them, some don't have any, you know. So
yeah, I would agree with that. They you get the best photos from people that are passionate about what they're shooting. Like if they're really excited about the views they're creating and the content and the projects, then you'll get the best product. I've noticed that most with interiors. The people, if you're doing a project that's where you really want to show off interior design and you're talking about FF&E and furnishings and textures and lighting, like it really helps to have somebody who's passionate and knowledgeable about those things, or else you just don't get as good a product.
Thank you. I'll note that there's a link been posted in the chat to one of those photographers. The next question I think is really more a statement, but probably a question for the Design Awards Committee, and that is it possible to post winning submissions on AIA website and provide common app results once they're beginning to be used? I'll take a stab at that. It seems to me National AIA often puts the best of submissions online, and it seems we should consider doing that as a resource next year for people to pick from. Elena comes up. Elena, you're our questions lady today, apparently.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's what this is for. Can you please repeat the name of the photographer, Terry, that you recommended? Maybe you can post it in the chat.
It was Jason Rick.
Yeah. And John Margolis, I think, also posted a few photographers in the chat. You'll want to take a look. Any other questions? Anybody have any general comments about the topic that want to make a comment?
I have a comment. They don't post the common app on the AIA Awards, but they regurgitate the submittal from the 10 areas for each project into a text paragraph with the COAT top 10. So I put the link in the chat if you want to go check that out. And it's an interesting way to look at those different aspects of a project. And I think the common app is almost like a checklist to, after reviewing a bunch of projects for the Design Awards, I was able to start looking at how my projects were being formed, even though I don't have a goal of submitting them for a Design Award, but it helps me to round out the aspect of the complete design solution to make sure that we're addressing all of the different areas that it could benefit the community at large. So I think it's a good tool to use to remind yourself to make sure to take into consideration all these different areas.
Thank you. Anyone else, general comments about the topic? If not, we made a short order of this webinar. We had an hour and we're doing it in like 40 minutes, so that's very nice. If not, I thank everybody for joining us. Good to see you all, and just like to thank our sponsors again, American Riviera Bank and Ashley Vance Engineering, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.